me many times, but they've never stopped me or asked me or even looked at me. So
yeah,
the
well,
dog is good enough a reason to
yes.
loiter. Yeah. So that's what keeps me. And then there is reading, there's music, and there's board work. In fact,
Yes.
because my charitable work, I'm on the board of Terry.
Yeah, I read that.
Thing. Yeah. So right tomorrow we have a long meeting. So I got to, and as usual, they send you 347 pages of stuff at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'm just furious. Furious.
So tell me something about Terry, Nawshir.
Terry it's the Energy and Environment Research Institute. So, and this is that guy Pachauri who won.
Yeah.
On behalf of the International Panel on Climate Change, got the Nobel Prize. So he used to be the head of Terry. At that time, I wasn't in Terry. Then he got involved in some problem. He's dead now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I joined a little after he Terry.
All right.
So it does a lot of research work funded by various organizations, including the government.
I see.
Yeah.
This hydrogen cell thing, is it looking promising now?
Well, hydrogen cell, if my recollection is right, was first thought of by some Frenchman in the 18th century.
Oh boy.
A real hydrogen cell, Mundi, is you take water, you split the molecule, you burn the hydrogen in the molecule. When the hydrogen is burning, it recombines with the oxygen, so you again get water. So input is water, output is water plus energy.
Okay.
It's not possible because the energy you need to do the splitting is more than the energy you get back when you do the burning. So then people call hydrogen cell various other things which are not really hydrogen cells as they are technically defined. So there are, I used to be on the board of Tata Power. They claim they have a hydrogen cell. I'm on the board of Thermax. They claim they have a hydrogen cell. So everyone claims to have a hydrogen cell.
Okay.
It is not in truth a hydrogen cell, but I'm not a scientist like you. So I can't really tell you more. But I always say don't use wrong names for what you've invented.
And there was also some talk on some battery, atomic battery, which uses some...
Yeah, all sorts of... These things come every month. You've got some idea.
Okay.
Liquid salt as a battery. Various things come up. Not as a battery, sorry, as a way of storing energy. Because a battery is nothing but storing energy.
Yes.
Various ideas, but they have to be viable. These people come up with these ideas, but then, like the original hydrogen cell, you get water input, water output, plus energy output. It's done. It happens in the laboratory. But it's not viable because it's negative energy.
Okay.
So these kind of things, you have to be very careful in believing what's right now going on about this COVID thing.
Yes.
Yep. But you have to wait for the one that actually works.
That's right. Because so far they've announced 3 vaccines already. But then the next day they seem to go silent on it.
Yeah, correct. Now we've got our Poonawala's claiming that
Poonawala,
one. He's now
the Oxford
September,
one.
or at least Oxford, his technical partner, is claiming September.
Israel is claiming.
Israel says, actually, Israel is claiming some kind of cure, if I'm not wrong.
That's right, DNA.
Yeah, which will actually be I don't know. Let's see. Let it all.
And Italy is claiming to have a vaccine almost ready.
Yeah. I give the comparison of smallpox. The humans lived with smallpox for about 20,000 years.
Yes.
After the first vaccine was invented, it took 400 years before smallpox was stamped out.
Oh.
Because you had to vaccinate every human being.
Correct.
So you can invent the vaccine in September, but you have to vaccinate 800 crore people.
Yeah.
How long is that going to take?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so, we have to be very careful in accepting these kind of
True
things. Now, Numi, I'm a pessimist by nature, so I'll always find the reason why.
Why not going to work. Well, at least you're in tune with the times, Nawshir. I'm hopelessly outgunned. I'm optimist by nature.
Yeah. But see, all businessmen have to be optimists. Otherwise, they can't. And all auditors have to be pessimists. Otherwise, they'll be useless auditors.
Yeah, my father-in-law used to say, everybody must be thinking we are mad. We take all our money and put it on the roadside. I said, why? So what do you think your structures are? They're all on the roadside. You take all the money and put it on the road. You must be a lunatic. He's telling me. I said, it's your business. Why are you telling me?
Yeah. So, Lumit, this is about an hour?
I think, that'll be about an hour or so maximum.
Yeah, as long as sort of we can sustain.
As long as it's fun. As long as it's fun.
Yeah.
And if you think you're getting late or something, just let me know.
Yeah, well, I eat dinner at 7, so I'll be anyway.
Okay. You eat dinner at 7 during these times or normally?
Normally, 7:15, yeah.
Okay.
Normally, yeah. So I go to the gym from 5 to 6, then I'm quite hungry by 7.
Oh, that's nice.
But now I don't, of course, and I don't know if I ever will.
They're on YouTube. No, but has Ratan given us a green signal?
And Nomyakal, I think we're good to go.
We're good to go.
Yeah, just mention to everyone, Nomyakal, I think there's something wrong with the live chat feature on YouTube. So if they have any further questions, they should message me directly on WhatsApp.
Sure. Okay. I'll do that.
All right.
Nawshir's gone off. Huh?
Yeah. No, he's here. He's here. I can see him.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, okay. Let me just get this gallery view. Yeah. Great. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's show. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce Nawshir Mirza, an old colleague of ours from SR Bartley Boy days. Incidentally, an old colleague of Yazdi Karai too. They did the articles around the same time, and I guess waited patiently for the articles also for the same time. Nawshir, let me introduce you first. A partner of Ernst & Young. He's what we call a genius chartered accountant, a man of very, even though he's shaking his head, a person of very high integrity, great moral standards, extremely outspoken, a tough man to deal with. And I had met one of the company owners, a certain Marwari gentleman whom I shall not own, or should not name, who had come across Nawshir Mirza and was left quite shattered in the bargain. So I won't go into that part of it. Suffice it is to say that Nawshir has had terrific experience in the corporate world. He's been a director of a number of companies. We'll go through them one by one so that he can narrate his experiences to us. And Nawshir, tell us about your life's journey so far, starting with your articles in Bartley Boy and the newly discovered talent that you found in the team when Bartley Boy went on to win some Merchant Cups and so on.
Yeah, I thought you would come to that. Yeah, but I think you poor clubbers must be really scraping the bottom of your barrel if you have got me onto your program. So you're obviously not able to find anyone else worthwhile. But anyway, coming back to your question, yeah, I joined the firm along with Yazdi Karai. We both joined the same day, and as I was saying, perhaps it was the 21st of June, if my memory is right, 1967. So we both joined on the same day, and we both went through the same waiting list and so on. And then I think Yazdi qualified and went off to Iran and made his life overseas. I hung around, and rather early in my life, I became a partner in the firm. No great credit to me, because in those days, nobody wanted to become a partner in an audit firm. Remember my very first year as a partner, and I was only 24 then, but my very first year as a partner, my takings were 500 rupees a month, which was not a lot of money. And it took me about 10 years of partnership before I could afford to buy a car, which was already 20 years old when I bought it. So there was no money in the profession at all. And so when you joined Numi, also I don't think I had a car at that time. When you
no, you didn't.
Coffee, a whole lot of you guys had joined together.
That's right.
And I remember, and that time I had become a partner. I'd been a partner maybe a very little time then. And so this must have been what, 1977, 76, 77, 78, thereabouts. And you all came up and said, why don't we put a team into the various five-a-side Merchants Cups that we have in Calcutta. And we did that. And Numi, you have to help me out. But I think we were in the five-a-side football, we were in the five-a-side cricket.
Hockey, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, I've forgotten. And
yes.
We used to have a guy called Mernosh who played in the table tennis, wasn't he? He was a Western champ.
Yes. Mernosh Kapadia. Yes.
In Mumbai. Very
quite
sad.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we had a very successful team. We won quite a bit of trophies for the couple of years we had a team. And then you guys finished your articles and went away, and we had no team after that. So it was a sort of a shooting star that the firm had in the world of sports. And I don't think after that the firm's ever ventured into playing sports. But of course, as far as I know, because I left the firm 17 years ago, I retired very early. I got bored of what I was doing. Now, the firm is a very different organization. When you and I were there were what, 150 people or so. We had
That's right.
With maybe 20 people. A couple of months ago, I ran into the head of the firm. He said, we have now 55,000 people in the firm. Oh. I couldn't believe those numbers. I said, you're shortly going to have more than the Indian Railways has. So it's a different world altogether.
Yes, I can imagine.
I said to you, I left early. I left early because not only was I bored, I saw what was coming. I saw that the firm had already become large. When I left, we had a few thousand people. And I realized that I'm not a person who's cut out to work in a large corporation. So I was what, 52 when I retired from the profession.
Yeah, you're very young. It came as quite a surprise to all of us, actually.
Yeah. And it's just, I got fed up of doing the same old thing. How much of auditing can you do after 36 years of it? It just gets up to here and you can't take any more of it. And then I decided, and I was introduced a few days ago on it's a government committee I sit on. And for the first time I was introduced like that, I was introduced as India's first professional independent director. And when I reflected on it, I don't know whether I was the first, but at least I was the first to claim to be that. Because when I retired, I said, what will I call myself? And so I called myself professional independent director. And that's what I have been now. Now, of course, that I'm 70 plus, and since 75 is the end of your directorship as per the new company law rules, I'm now on the glide path. And again, sometimes I have to just throw away all my cards, close my office, and do what I'm right now doing as a COVID victim.
Doing what all of us are doing, isn't it?
All of us are doing just now, yes. So that's what it is. And so come on, now you'd have to ask me something else. I don't know what more.
Yeah, okay. Not enough of that. Let's get into the companies in which you were a director. Now, you were a director in a number of very successful companies. You still are there in Thermax. But there were some very other interesting companies which you were part and parcel of. So why don't you give us a brief background of those companies you were associated with?
If I go all the way back, the first company I became a director of was a company called ASAB. And anyone listening who is from the engineering field will recognize the name. They are people who do welding. It's a Swedish company. And one of the world's biggest in this welding business. And I used to be its auditor many, many years ago. And then for about 10 or 15 years, the firm were not the auditors. And then when the law came in that every company must have an independent director, which was coincidentally, I think, exactly 20 years ago, they asked me if I would like to join, and I joined. And after that, what are the companies I can tell you about? Well, a company called Emphasis, which is not not Infosys, emphasis.
Emphasis, yes, yes.
Jerry Rao, it's sort of associated with him, though Jerry went away a long time ago. And so an IT company in Bangalore also, later acquired by HP. And I think HP sold out, then it was with BlackRock, and I don't know what it does now. So all of these companies, and then I happened to be invited to be India's head of the Jardine Matheson business.
Yes, that was
really interesting company, because this is a company that goes back, started in 1835 or something. And Jamsetji Jijiboy was their Indian agent. And so his job was to procure all the opium, which he shipped out to Hong Kong, where, of course, they sold it to the Chinese out of their Canton office. Now, of course, they call it Guangdong. And so Jardine is a hoary old company. And if you go into its offices in Hong Kong, they've got a wonderful picture. The only picture they have hanging in their office is that of Jamsetji Jijiboy in his...
yes, of course.
Yeah, with an enormous medal painted on his chest. Obviously, the size of the medal is much larger than the one Queen actually bestowed upon him. But it was a thing of such great pride that the artist was asked to make it about 5 times the real size.
Okay.
This is the fact that Jamsetji was a baronet. So his picture hangs there in the office of Jardines. And so when I joined Jardines here, they said that one of the businesses we have is we have an investment in Tata Industries. And would you agree to represent us on the board of Tata Industries? I said, sure, why would I not? So there I joined Tata Industries. I was on that board till Jardines eventually exited that investment after about 7 years. That's where Ratan Tata got to know me. So when he needed a director in Tata Power, he asked if I would like to join Tata Power. So I joined the board of Tata Power, where also I was for more than 10 years. And then I'm still, and then there were, of course, 2 businesses where I chaired the board for 10 years. One was, both were private. One was a supermarket business called Food World in South India. And RTG, Sanjeev Goenka had a half a stake in that, and Jardines had the other half. And another called Health and Glow, which is a little like Boots in the UK, all the beauty stuff. And so that I used to chair for about 10 years. And I still survive on 2 boards. One is Thermax, as you said, and the other is a Calcutta board, Exide. But unfortunately, the promoter of Exide doesn't enjoy coming to Calcutta. So for all its meetings that happen in Mumbai, when I joined the board, I thought I'll get a chance to come more often.
Yes.
But sadly, it's only once a year because the AGM, thank God, by the law, has to have the head offices, the registered offices. Otherwise, perhaps I would not even come once a year to Calcutta for an official reason. So I made it a rule long before it became the law, never to sit on a board for more than 10 years.
Okay.
Reason, then you get bored, number 1. And number 2, if you have anything to input or suggest, you've exhausted yourself. So by year 6 or 7, you find you're repeating yourself. And by year 10, everyone has realized that you're repeating yourself. So it's best to be gone.
Okay, all right. You were mentioning about Jamsetji Jijiboy.
Yeah.
It was the 4th voyage to Hong Kong where he finally made money in the opium trade.
Right.
It was in the first 3, he made no money. He lost all his money and was taken. He was taken hostage by pirates.
Yes, indeed, he was. Yes, yes.
And Prochi has researched the matter and written it in a book about Jamsetji Jijiboy.
Yes.
So,
what an adventurous bunch of Parsis.
Absolutely. And from there to reach the highest pinnacles.
Yeah, yeah. If I look down, maybe it's my dog is troubling me. He wants to be recognized. So I'm scratching his head. Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I read a book. I have a book which is about the opium and the cotton trade. And I saw that there were about 150 Parsi families in Canton, in the 19th century. This was
That's right.
the 1820s, 30s, 40s, those years. Yeah.
My great grandfather was also there.
He was.
Yeah. We had a house in Canton and a house in French Canton and English Canton.
Yeah.
Two houses.
Well, there you are then. Yeah. No, the Shanghai you mean then?
No, Canton.
Canton. Oh, really?
Canton. Because Canton was the port area, and the ships would come over there first. So he built his two houses, two mansions.
Yeah. You know, Nomi, we used to have a partner, Victor Vickerji. Many of the
yes, of course.
Victor. Victor is originally from Hong Kong.
Oh, I didn't know that.
His father was a very big merchant there. And when I looked at this book, when I said 150 merchants, I saw Vickerji, Bikaji, because the real name is Bikaji, and then you sit and make it Bikaji and that sort of thing. So there was a Bikaji there even then, and Roshan, I don't know Roshan Gazar, if she's on this, she can tell you some stories about her dad and her grandfather in Shanghai. That was Shanghai.
Nawshir, there are quite a few questions.
Sure.
The first one from Aban Confectioner, question: could you tell us about your Bartley Boy days? At one stage, you were talking about writing a book. Now, is that ever going to happen?
Yeah. Oh, well, Lady Toffee. Actually, I have written the book many years ago, and she helped me a little in that. Yeah. Toffee, they all helped me. And the book was written quite a few years ago. The book got triggered because the firm was approaching its centenary. So they said, you have a lot of the history of the firm. So will you write the book? I said, okay, I'll write the book. And I enjoyed writing the book enormously. It needed me to travel to London, to Bangkok, obviously to Calcutta, Lal Bazaar Police Headquarters, all sorts of places I went to, the archives in Delhi. And the book is ready. Well, as ready as it can be. It can always, you can keep adding stuff. But then when I sent it to the firm, that now here is the book and your centenary next year, they said, oh my God, it's too true and fair. We thought you will write a kind of marketing blurb. And I said, look, then you didn't know me. You didn't expect me to write a goody-goody kind of book, which only said, how the turnover was only 5 lakh and it became 5 crore. And that's not my idea of a book. I didn't want to read it. Forget anyone else. So it's a very interesting book. And anyone's interested, I'm happy to email it to them and they can read it.
Yes, we'd love to have a copy over here.
I'll send it to you, Numi, and then
I'll distribute it.
And one day I'll publish it. The only reason I haven't done it yet is because one of the reasons the firm was a little upset was it talks of our relationship with the then Arthur Young, which later became Ernst & Young.
Yes, understood.
And there is a sort of paranoia in all the big four that the Institute of Chartered Accountants is constantly gunning for them, which it is, and is always out to get them, because there's a huge jealousy of their having been successful in having big international relationships which have benefited the Indian practices, whereas the smaller firms have not had the advantage of that. Now, that's no fault of the bigger guys. They've been there a long time and they build those relationships and they bet on the correct horses and they therefore are benefiting from it. And so the firm believes that if you put all this, then it will be used to further make life hard for us and all. So suppose I were to publish it, I don't think it would, because there's nothing there which can be used against them, but there's a certain paranoia. So the only thing that holds me back. But it's got some interesting stories.
Oh, I would love to read it then.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. And you can give it to whoever wants to read it. Yeah, it's not got perfectly finished off. But because I was waiting, because the finishing is when I left the firm. And when I left the firm, the big event that happened is it coincided with the collapse of Arthur Andersen as an accounting firm around the world.
Oh, yes.
And all over the world, in every country, the remaining big four were anxious to pick up the local practice. And so in India, ultimately, what was by then had become Ernst & Young was successful in picking up the Arthur Young practice. And so there is a story around that, which is a little tricky. So I have to still think how to put it.
Okay.
Because those partners had certain values which didn't quite gel with what the correct values of a good firm should be. And so, indeed, most of the partners who were taken when I was still there, they joined, and I left about 9 months after the Anderson partnership folded into our partnership. About a year after that, almost all those partners had to leave.
Oh, okay.
So there was a certain issue which I'm aware of, and it's a very difficult issue. So
I see.
I'll one day end up
okay.
properly and appropriately, because I don't want to get sued for, I don't know what the right term is, slander, libel, whatever.
Okay. No, I know a lot about the merger because all our fees went up. We were being audited by Bartley Boy, and our fees suddenly, yeah, and they suddenly shot up. So I said,
no, Numi, I can't believe it.
They said, I asked what happened. He said, no, we've taken Anderson. I said, very good. I'm happy. You know, but Anderson's salary are double hours, so we have to double everyone's salary. So you have to pay us more money. RK.
Yeah. I can. He'll use any trick to get the fees out.
No, but RK has been very good to us.
Well, he's a lovely guy. He's retired.
He is a lovely. He's retired too.
Yeah.
Okay,
I wrote the book, as I said.
Yeah, wonderful. So I look forward to reading that, and perhaps when you write the final chapter, I'll take a look at that too.
Then you will have to buy it in a bookshop.
Well done. Okay.
Yeah.
Arvind Patel asks a question. We all know that the Tata Group has always practiced good governance.
Yeah.
Now, I know for a fact personally that even good governance has drawbacks here and there. I mean, there is good governance and there is strictly good governance.
Yeah.
So I know that you did have a bit of a tucker, as they say.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us in short form, the gist of it? Because I understand it has to do with trust and whether a trust should own and can own a company and then dictate policies to the company itself, blah, blah, blah. So if you would go into the finer points, perhaps just touch upon it to give us an understanding of your thoughts on that issue.
Yeah. No. I was, certainly what the point you mentioned is a relevant issue. It's a very relevant issue. Even now it's on the front burner as well. But that was not my involvement. Mine was a very interesting situation. Cyrus Mistry, and I have a great regard for him. He's just a wonderful person. So suddenly, I was one day driving home from the office about 4 o'clock, as I normally do. And a cousin of mine, Adi engineer, I don't know, some of you might know Adi, he used to be in Calcutta many years ago, even before I was there. So Adi called me when I was on Marine Drive and said, Nawshir, are you looking at the news? Of course I wasn't, I was in the car. And he said, Cyrus Mistry has been sacked. And I was astounded. So, I was astounded, but I was not completely taken by surprise. And so when I got home, and of course we all then looked at the news and we all saw what happened. But we had then a very strange situation. Cyrus had been sacked as the chairman of Tata Sons, but he still remained the chairman of these various companies, including Tata Power.
Okay.
He was still there and he still had his position. So then the very next morning, I went to Bombay House because I realized that the managing director would be he would have to look at somebody to help him through this whole thing, because suddenly he had a chairman of his board who was persona non grata in the building. He was not allowed to enter Bombay House. He had, on the other side, the principal shareholders who had indeed triggered this action. So what would be an appropriate response by him? So the first thing I did that day was I called him and he said, Nawshir, I'm still in Singapore attempting to catch a flight, which he succeeded in doing. And so I went to Bombay House, and the minute he arrived from the airport, we sat together and we discussed how he should handle it and so on and so forth. And then Anil Sardana was his name, just a wonderful MD. And he and I used to be in touch almost every single day. And for about 6 or 8 months, the company didn't really have a chairman. Cyrus survived for a couple of months after being sacked as the chairman till Tata Sons, which had the right to appoint the chairman, wrote us a letter saying we withdraw his nomination as the chair. And then I sort of entered into some negotiations and made sure they nominated someone who was suitable to hold office till eventually Chandra became the properly selected nominee of Tata Trusts. So my real involvement was there, but I certainly was not happy at the manner in which this whole affair was handled, because Tata Power is an independent company. And my point was, or my position still is, it wasn't then, my position still is that the trusts are the controlling shareholders. They have 30+% of the company, but there's also 70+% owned by others who are not the trusts. And so there is a certain grace in the way this should have been handled. And I really think the whole thing was not done in the way it ought to have. Many people have asked me, what is the reason it happened? There is an apparent reason, and that's why I said to you a little earlier, I was astonished, but I was not completely surprised, is that I could see for a couple of years that communication between the two sides had almost become non-existent.
Oh, okay.
And the challenge was that, you see, when you have two centers of power, which we had, and two centers of power in a listed entity. Now, one center of power in the listed entity doesn't have access to the listed entity's goings on or doings in advance. That center of power feels neglected. So, R&T was a center of power.
Yes, of course.
The chair of the trusts, he was chairman directors of the Tata Sons. But he couldn't be told what Tata Power is doing in advance because it was a listed company. That was insider information. So
yes, correct. Insider.
The whole pot came to the boil when at a certain point, Tata Power acquired the renewable businesses of a company called Welspun.
Yes.
Excellent solar fields. And for, if I remember the numbers now, about 9,000 crore rupees, we bought those businesses. And next morning, Ratan Tata became aware that Tata Power had bought this when he read the morning Economic Times. So, this is hearsay, I don't know if it's true or it's not, but naturally he got very upset. And that led to a lot of unpleasantness. And there were allegations on both sides, and they were all in the media. There were allegations directly made. There were obviously stories which were being planted by various people, right or wrong stories. Mostly they were wrong stories. It was a very, very difficult time. And for example, an allegation was made that Cyrus Mistry took a kickback. One newspaper said 500 crores on this deal. Another said 1,000 crores. For a man who's got a wealth of 1 lakh crores, why on earth would he take a 500 crore kickback? And I was personally involved with this deal as an independent director, both of the parent company and of the renewables company of Tata Power, which actually did the transaction. Was involved with it for a whole year. So I knew for a fact this is not true. So there was a lot of unpleasantness, and I took it upon myself. Many of my colleagues didn't agree with me. They said it's none of your business and you should keep your mouth shut. But I took it upon myself to, whenever I was asked by the media, to disabuse them and deny wrong statements. There were many wrong statements that were made. There were many wrong statements made against poor Ratan Tata, which also I think had to be denied. They were not all one-sided. Don't get that impression. But certainly the Tata Power situation was that it was the whipping stock for this particular battle that was being had between these two giants. And Welspun was the thing that was at the center of the whole thing. And at that time, by coincidence, the chair of the audit committee and of the NRC, and we had no company chair. So I was almost acting without being officially so, like the chairperson. So there was a lot of pressure on, you must launch an investigation. You know, so for example, there was a pressure. Why don't you have an investigation? Did Cyrus Mistry take a kickback? I said, the very fact that we start an investigation would stigmatize him. And if I have reason to believe that, yes, he might have, of course I will do an investigation. But if there is no reason to believe that, I will not do an investigation because it will then be used to put a headline into next morning's newspaper saying, Tata Power Audit Committee investigates Cyrus kickbacks. And then nobody would read a year to the report of the investigation.
Further, yes.
Yeah. So I said, and thank God, Ratan Tata himself drafted the whistleblowing rules of the Tata Group, which include specifically a provision which says the audit committee should be very careful when launching an investigation that it doesn't result in stigmatizing the accused unnecessarily. So I think I have seen many whistleblowing rules, but this is the only one I have seen which includes this provision. And I think that was the wisdom of Ratan Tata. And in this particular case, it helped his antagonist, but it helped him correctly, I think.
Okay.
So that was my involvement. And then, of course, the trust story is another story.
Yes, of course. Right. I think it's fabulous that you stood up for what you thought is right, Nawshir. I think you've done that your whole life.
I have actually. Yeah.
And have suffered a bit for it. Nonetheless, way to go, buddy. Great.
Yeah. Thanks to me. Thanks for the compliments. Yeah.
Darius Leelawala asks, which businesses will be winners and which will be losers in the post-COVID world?
So he should answer this question. What was he doing in the IMF all these years? I should be asking him. Very, very difficult to answer, but forgive my quote. I think the simple answer right now is COVID, according to me, Numi, I'm no prognosticator, according to me, COVID is going to be very bad for all of the weaker sections of society. If I look at the corporate sector, the segment of the corporate sector which is going to suffer the most is women. Right now, it's the women who are handling all their official work and handling more domestic work than their working husbands sitting in that same home are. So all of the weaker sections are the ones who are going to suffer as a result of this COVID thing. And therefore, all the weaker companies, and when you talk of weaker companies, mostly companies are going to find it tough. Indeed, 3-4 days after this whole thing happened, my first instruction to all my wealth managers was, please sell all my holdings in small and medium. I don't want any more of those.
Okay.
And I think that's what's happening right now. It's the big guys who are going to survive somehow. The small guys are all going to go under.
So bad days for MSMEs.
I am afraid. My brother-in-law is an MSME. My nephew is an MSME. And they are in really sad state. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, that brings me to the next question written by Jahan Mehta, my son. And in the absence of a stimulus package, how should smaller businesses go about their business? Cut expenses, but how? What about bank funding? Could it lead to temporary relief, but a debt trap in the long run?
How to cut expense? I don't think I can even give you an answer because every story is different. And every scale of operation is different. And I think most MSME businesses have anyway been reasonably thrifty. Though a lot of the modern MSME guys, and I don't talk about they're not MSME as we traditionally understand them. there are all these .com kind of guys who come out with these IT things. They do sometimes tend to live up life, and it's become a style with them. For example, employees can order in whatever they want to eat on company account and that sort of thing. So there are maybe some places there where you can cut. I really don't know where you can cut your expenses, Jehan. I'm sorry about that. On the borrowing, I'm all in agreement with you. Be very, very careful when you borrow, because you'll have to pay back what you borrow, and you have to pay it back out of your after-tax earnings. You know, maybe you were still in the firm or you had just left. Buckley Boy bought a tiny office in Mumbai, its first one in 1978. And it took that time a loan of 3 lakh rupees from a friend of one of the partners. It wasn't even a bank loan. And he was a kind friend. He didn't impose any interest or anything. It took the firm 8 years to pay back that 3 lakh rupees, because after you've paid your taxes, there is even less money in the kitty. So it's not easy to pay back loans like these. I mean, the government will say, take a loan and keep paying salaries and all, but the government never ran a business, and the ones it has run are all in a mess. And the people in the government who say these things haven't run businesses at all, because the ones which are in a mess were run by the bureaucrats. The ministers themselves mostly haven't run businesses, or if they've run them in their own way. Like our friend Nitin Gadkari, who's independent director of his own drivers and housemaids. So those people have their own way of doing things, and so it's easy to sit on your throne in Delhi and issue edicts. Are difficult for people to implement. And I know a lot of companies right now have taken 20% salary cuts, 30% salary cuts. Some have said we give no bonuses this year, or we'll give bonuses, but we'll defer them by 8 months. So various companies have done various things to somehow manage their cash position, because they have to survive.
Okay.
The test is survival, not
very true.
Anything else. Yeah.
What do you think will be the first signs of a sort of recovery is around the corner? What would be the first some signal that yes, we are going to now?
Demand for non-essentials. See, yesterday I was on a call with Harsh Mariwala, the guy who owns Marico.
Yeah.
He said, we're doing fantastically, because everyone needs hair oil and soap,
yes,
and Saffola cooking oil and whatever. But he said, we're doing fantastically in our essentials. But if he looks at Kaya Clinic, Kaya is his thing, you know.
Stuff. Skin clinic.
It's zero. It's doing terribly. So when you see a demand for non-essentials beginning to revive, and this is nothing to do with, I think, just the COVID. We have seen this slide for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
The slide has been going on for several years. Indeed, as I said, the only beneficiary of the COVID thing is the government, because now it has an excuse for the mess it had already created by saying, no, it's not our fault. The virus came and spoiled the economy. But it's only when you see the demand for non-essentials reviving, cars or consumer durables, fridges, things like that, that you will think that, yes, it's reviving.
Okay. And what would be the advice on the compliance front? They keep saying you pay GST with 9% interest instead of paying 18% interest, and you have to pay by June, and you please pay your income tax by June, and you file all your returns, and you please keep all your staff, you pay them money, also give them some advance because they're having tough times. Meanwhile, billing is zero, income is absolutely zero. So what happens to the compliance? I mean, how do you manage the compliance? You just neglect it and say, let's see about it afterwards. What would a person do?
No, I think with this government, I wouldn't take panga. So if you had asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have said something different to you. This government is not a government you play games with. So I would first focus upon certainly survival of my company. So if by paying my taxes, I won't survive, maybe I'll defer paying my taxes. But if I can't survive without by paying my taxes, then maybe I shouldn't be in this business any longer.
Yes.
Because I think this is an essential expense for you. It's not a non-essential, because the alternative could be being taken away to prison. And if the promoter of the business goes into prison and it's a small business, the business is not going to survive anyway. So I wouldn't take panga, or if there is a show cause or a prosecution launched against you, and instead of focusing on your business, you've got to keep running to the lawyers, and you've got this terrible anxiety of dealing with these people, then you have a real problem with your business.
Yes, quite right.
Sorry, that's my intercom going off.
Okay.
Some Amazon delivery has arrived.
Okay.
So right now we're all surviving on Amazon.
Okay. We are using Big Basket over here. It's quite good.
Yeah, well, also that.
Yeah.
One of these kind of things, yeah.
So Frenas Bugrelia asks, what is your advice to the youth who will be stepping out for their first jobs in the next year, or perhaps in the middle of this downturn?
Well, Frenas, it's been so many years since I ever stepped out for a job. And actually, when I think about it, I never went out for a job. So I'm not sure I'm
never
the
did.
right person to give you advice. But let me tell you what I think. I think the first thing you want to remember is plan to be hanging there for a long time. A lot of young people today get bored very fast. And I have seen many young people who've been 2 or 3 years in the company and say, Mr. Mirza, we want to move on. And why do you want to move on? You've been here 3 years. No, we're already bored. And some of you may remember, we used to have in Calcutta a man called Jimmy Chowna, chartered accountant. He passed away. He used to be in Tata Steel.
Yes.
All of his career, he handled Provident Fund in Tata Steel. No, he never got bored. He survived those, 35 years or something of members' contribution, employees' contribution, interest rate, whatever he did in the Provident Fund department. But he did it. So I think the first advice to you would be to hang in there. Don't plan on moving on. Don't get bored. There is fun in whatever you do. Find fun in what you are doing. And my second piece of advice would be plan on being very flexible, because most employers today are going to require employees who have the flexibility in them to take on different roles, which will address your first concern that you want you want variety. So plan to be flexible. Don't be difficult with your employer. Normally, it's good to give 3 pieces of advice, but I can't think of a third one. So I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll be happy with the 2 I have.
Okay. Ratan Poswala asks, how can consulting services add greatest value to their clients over the next couple of years?
Yeah. Numi, from my own experience, or Ratan, from my own experience, I think the first thing you could be helping companies do is to develop a planning model. Let me give you an example of my own board, Thermax, where yesterday we spent more than 2 hours discussing its plan. And it's a wonderful plan the management has put together in the last 1 month, addressing a lot of angles. But I said, and so I had said to them when they started on this exercise, I want a plan which also addresses the worst case scenario. So don't give me just one plan. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So they've given 2 plans. The one they think will be the likely outcome over the next 12 months, and the one they think will be the worst outcome over the next 12 months if, according to them, everything they think can go wrong went wrong. So my first advice was, can you now give me a plan with your confidence level in these 2? Because when you say most likely, you're obviously not saying 100% confidence. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So what's your confidence level? Is it 50, 60, 70%? And your worst one also, what's your confidence level on that this is the worst situation? That I think with 80% confidence, I said this is the worst that can happen. Is it that? So I want you to give me a confidence level. So they asked, how do we do that? I said, identify your 8 or 10 most important components of this plan which could swing it the maximum. For example, the power sector or the cement sector are their major businesses. They think the power sector will put orders worth 1,000 crores in the next year. I'm just throwing a number. That's
yes.
They have 1,000 crores. With what confidence do you say it's 1,000 crores? And so talk to 4 or 5 of your power department people and take a poll. And if you think the average of that 1,000 crores is 65% confidence, put 65% against that 1,000.
Yep.
A weightage of X to that 1,000, multiply that 65 with that X, and you get that component. So take all those 10 components, aggregate them, you got a confidence of your total plan. So my first advice to Ratan is to help managements to build plans, which they can therefore using this constantly work on modifying. Because if you identify the 10 most important inputs, every week you go back and relook at those 10 inputs. You can't look at the 100 inputs because you spend all your time only looking at inputs instead of running the business. But you look at those 10 most important inputs and tweak them, correct them, whatever you have to do to them. And you constantly have a new confidence level, or at the same confidence level, you have a new plan without a lot of effort. So my first advice is develop a model on that. The second thing, Ratan, is a lot of us are now doing work from home. A lot of companies are working from home. But a lot of our SOPs in these companies were written when you were actually at the site of what was happening. So if it was repair work, you had an SOP which said you must have a permit to go and work on a machine. Now maybe this permit is being issued not by the head of the by the head of the department, who's not present in the factory. He's sitting in his house 20 kilometers away from the factory. You see what happened to Vizag in the LG factory in Vizag this morning. Now they went and tried to start it up and it let off that gas, and I don't know what the latest number is, but 10 people died out of that poisonous gas that came out of the polymer factory in Vizag, LG's factory. So they didn't have an SOP for such a situation. Perhaps they had been 3 or 4 maintenance guys and told them, can you get some tank or something started up? Or I don't know what happened. It will take us some time before the investigation comes out. So a lot of the companies, they need to rewrite their SOPs on how to work from home. And work from home is going to be with us now for many years because this virus is not going to go away. A little while ago, I told you guys about smallpox. We lived with it for tens of thousands of years. It is not unlikely we're going to live with this virus for many years to come. So we're going to have to work in a way different from the way we have been used to. So help companies rewrite those. So there are 2 things I'm giving you ideas on already. I'm sure there are more, but I think these 2 should be enough to keep you busy for the virus is wiped out.
So Ratan, that is why Nawshir is India's first professional independent director.
No, but
I think that's some wonderful advice. Okay, never mind that.
With you, maybe as, yeah.
Well, in my eyes, Nawshir, you definitely are a genius chartered accountant. Because I've never seen anybody actually work so hard in articles.
Thank you very much.
We have a question.
Yeah.
We have a question from Terence Mandel, who says, why have Parsi jurists, finance specialists, corporate managers almost disappeared from the boards of India Inc.?
Yeah.
More particularly, why are there almost no directors left on the boards of India's most iconic industrial conglomerate, the Tata Group, I presume he's talking about.
I assume so, yeah.
So have you any idea why we have very few Parsi jurists or specialists or corporate directors? There seems to be a sudden lull in holding high positions in organizations.
I'll give you my take on, and this is a question people often mull over, and I'll give you my take. Number one reason is a whole lot of those who used to be suitable for this are now too old or are now consigned to the Dakma. So for sitting on the boards. The second is a lot of and you get onto the board when you're in your 50s or 60s, for whatever reason. And I think the primary reason is it's assumed that when you've reached that chronology in your age, you perhaps collected some wisdom. And so that is the one thing which many company managements lack, because they have a lot of knowledge, they have a lot of information, but they may not have a lot of wisdom. So they're looking for that, and so they go out looking for old guys, hoping to have that. So there are not a lot of Parsis now of that vintage who are either in India, because many began to emigrate in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So they've gone overseas, and so they're not available to us now to be put on the board. And they're now in their 60s or whatever. I think that's another reason. There are a lot of good guys, but they're working in organizations that don't permit you to take directorships. So lawyers, accountants, they're not allowed to take directorships, because then their firms can't sell business to those companies where they become directors.
Correct.
So, for example, my old firm would say you can't be a director in any company, because who knows, we may want to go and sell them an audit, and then you will be the cause of losing that business. So that's another reason. And particularly and I think the final reason is that because the Parsi community has evolved, and this is the reason why the Tatas don't have it, and so it no longer thinks of itself in communal terms. So Ratan Tata, I don't think, ever took directors because they were Parsis. That was the last thought that would have ever come into his mind. I don't think it ever even occurred to him that we must take a person because he's...
Okay.
Therefore, he took people he thought who were the best to take. And it's just by perchance that I got picked up, not because I was a Parsi. I don't think that even occurred to him. Yeah.
He also asked that, isn't the term independent director an oxymoron, particularly in light of all the scams that are happening?
Yeah. It's an old chestnut. There are many conferences I chair where I declare in my opening remarks, this question will be disallowed.
Okay.
3 times.
All right.
It can't be answered. But I'll tell you, I won't fob it off in that fashion. Numi, do we have time, or you want to stop?
Yeah, we can. We've got some.
We can go on. Yeah. I'll control my hunger for dinner. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think there are independent directors, and I know it sounds vain, but I like to pride myself as one who has always spoken his mind. And there are many board meetings where I've disagreed with Ratan Tata or Cyrus Mistry, to name 2 individuals. And on all of my boards, I've had disagreements. But I think what people, and there are scandals and scams that happen. The defense is that think of all the 10 times greater number where no scandal or scam has happened. And is it only because the independent directors were silent? Maybe in many of those cases, the independent directors stopped something from going wrong, which reminds me of something which you know him, and many of your listeners may remember him, Pesi Nariyalwala. He used to say this in the auditors. He used to say that, there is this move to rotate auditors after 10 years or whatever, because the idea is that if you have a long relationship, then you lose your independence because you get influenced by the person who appoints you. He says what people don't realize is that when indeed you're maybe they didn't use that word, maybe when you're the underdog, it takes you time to in fact develop influence over the top dog. And so if I am a good auditor, I'm a good auditor not because I write an audit report which says the accounts are wrong. I'm a good auditor because I persuade my client to do the right thing and to produce the correct set of accounts, even if his first instinct is to do something wrong. So there are many, and my own life experiences, that my ability to influence people who were much larger and much greater than me was perhaps my bigger contribution than the very few cases where I said, I dissent and I want that to be noted in the records. That would be very, very, very rare. You people sit on the club committee. How happy would you be if there were members in the committee who were constantly wanting their dissent to be noted?
You're quite right.
No, you wouldn't have a committee, you wouldn't have a club. It would have wound up a long time ago. And that's exactly what's happened to the Parsi Panchayat in Mumbai.
Yeah, absolutely.
Independent-minded trustees, that they are constantly sending dissent notes to each other and copying them to the media. Is that the kind of thing you want? So I think there are independent directors who have been very successful in the thousands of companies who haven't run aground till now.
Nawshir, the passion shines through. Well said, well said. Very well said.
Lawyer's defense.
There's a good point made by someone. It's just come under the category of others. Noel Tata has recently been added as a trustee of the Tata Trust.
Yeah.
How can one see, or how can one be assured of his ultimate elevation as chairman of the Tata Trust?
I don't know. Well, my first thing when I read about this in the morning newspaper was, and if you reflect or you remember, the newspaper added not only he and who's the guy in Pune, the doctor who runs the hospital. Anyway, they were both appointed, and for the first time, and certainly in the Tata Trust for the first time, and in most trusts, I'm not aware of trustees being appointed for a 3-year term. I'm not aware of trusts that appoint trustees for a limited term, like an employee or a director. So both of these individuals were appointed, and I say by Ratan Tata, because obviously it is he who made that decision, not any of the others. I wouldn't like to fool myself by believing that. Why would Ratan Tata appoint them for 3 years? He's obviously got them on test. Let's see how they behave. When you think about it, Noel Tata hasn't had leadership of any of the large Tata companies, the ones that are iconic. He's never had it, and he's been there heading various Tata companies now for 15, 20 years. So I don't know whether he will become the chair, won't become. I don't know. I wouldn't place my bets either way.
Okay. Well, I don't know whether the next question is a real question or not. So I'll read it out all the same. Yeah. Given the conflict between Tata Sons and the SP group, would it help if Ratan was to step aside and let Noel take over?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But
such an avuncular figure. He would loom over everything, no matter where he stood after stepping aside. His shadow would fall over. I don't think it would. I don't think so. Sadly.
Yes, he truly is a giant amongst men. So
yeah.
It's not easy to, just imagine a situation.
Yeah.
Nawshir, Bahadur has a couple of questions for you. I think he takes us now. Posty, exactly. Ratan's father.
Yeah.
He writes that we are a community of mostly salaried employees or retired seniors.
Yeah.
We hear a lot about the GDP failing, economy being worse than the 28 recessions, subjects that we don't understand, but which give a general picture of doom ahead.
Yeah.
If that is so, is there anything different these two groups should be doing for the next 1 year, or at least in the shape of income, savings, reducing expenses, blah, blah, blah?
I was worried somebody will ask that. I'm not an investment advisor, and now SEBI has all kinds of tight rules which says you can't give advice unless you are this or that or the other. But my own feeling is that if you haven't done it by now, it may be a little late for me to give you any advice. But what I have been explained about for the last 20 years, since I began to do any investing, since I had any wealth worth investing, was to make sure that I had sufficient diversification, not only amongst entities, but amongst types of entities, amongst the nature of the exposure, including I always kept 7 or 8% in gold ETFs. All my investment advisors would say, you are nuts, don't keep so much. In 2008, I phoned them and said, when I laughed my way to the bank, and the heads, I said that to them again a month ago. Look at what's happened. My gold is what's kept the whole portfolio up. And so you guys can get a reward for it, because ultimately they are paid on the value of my portfolio. And all the stuff you were plugging has dipped. It hasn't quite gone. And so you just got to distribute your wealth as much as you can, as widely as you can. And I think that's advice which is even good today. The challenge today is not where to invest. The challenge today is what to get out of if you have not invested in the various buckets that you should. So one bucket is you're allowed to invest overseas. You're allowed per Indian to send $250,000 overseas every year. So I have over some time built up a portfolio of investments overseas, not in individual companies, because who on earth is going to track individual companies? In index funds. So if I put money into the NASDAQ index fund or the NYSE index fund, then I know it's doing well or it's doing badly, but it does better than if I had invested in any individual company over a long period of time. So diversify your portfolio. If you haven't done it yet, get out of the ones that you think are going to take the hit badly. And I said a little while ago that I think all the smaller guys, all the weaker guys are going to take a bad hit. The strong ones are going to survive. So if you think you have ones that are weak or not strong, get out of those. If you're lucky and have none of those, get out partly of the strong ones you have and do some diversification. Because even the strong ones, you can't be sure what will happen to them. 15 years ago, Tata Steel was a very strong company, and then they went off and bought Chorus. And today it's struggling to survive. So what we perceive as strong may no longer remain strong. So if you've been sensible and put money only in strong companies, even some of those exit partly and go for some of the things I've said. They may look expensive, but that's now a slight cost of having delayed your diversification. But if you're already diversified, then just hang in there. Don't do anything. Sit on your hands and hope things will revive, which won't happen, I think, for a number of years.
Would you think it would be advisable to sell if you're in and wait for the Nifty to go down and then again reinvest or some such thing?
No, I would never do, sir. You can never second guess the market. I don't think that's wise. But a systematic investment or a systematic disinvestment plan, where if you say I want to disinvest 25 lakhs, and you may say every month I'll disinvest 8 lakhs, and over 3 or 4 months I will disinvest, and vice versa, I will invest over 3 or 4 months. You may do that so that you take some of the pluses and you take some of the minuses. But to try and second guess this thing is impossible. Never ever play that game. I wouldn't do it. And I'm not particularly bright. That's why I don't do it.
But you have a career that says the opposite, Nawshir.
Not stock. Nobody is bright. The guys have been caught short.
Well, Warren Buffett himself has taken a hit of $50 billion.
Yeah, there you are. There you are. Yeah, if now
he's about as shrewd as they come. So
yeah, as they come. Exactly.
So I have received no other questions. Radhan, can you confirm that there are no other questions?
Nothing else. Thank you.
That's it. Nawshir, it's been a fantastic evening. I know we've kept you away from your dinner for 40 minutes now. There's not too much I can give you except to salute you by way of a toast. Cheers, my friend.
Thank you. Cheers. Have a lovely evening, all of you who are on this thing, whoever been able to get the call. And thank you, Numi, for letting me enjoy my evening.
Next time you're in Calcutta, you must give me a ring. At least let's have a drink together.
I shall. We're at a distance, 6 feet apart.
6 feet apart. Certainly we shall. Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers, Nawshir.
All the best. Bye, everybody.
God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless you all. Yeah. Bye.